You don't fear God. You fear the consequences of what if he's real? What will happen to me? Am I wrong? Am I in danger? But what if I told you that fear has nothing to do with God and everything to do with guilt? Well, what is guilt? Guilt is a self-conscious moral emotion. It appears when a person believes, accurately or not, that they have violated their own standards or universal moral rules, and that they bear responsibility for that violation. But why does guilt even exist? Evolutionary, guilt is a survival mechanism around primates and mammals. It increases cooperation and pair bonding. But humans are different. We survive by maintaining relationships. Guilt evolved because it pushed us to correct harmful behavior, prevent isolation or retaliation, and secure acceptance from a group. In other words, guilt keeps you alive by keeping you connected. Your brain automatically jumps into the future and predicts the harm you may cause and the consequences you may face. Another important fact is that guilt is learned through socialization at the ages 3 to 6. This is the exact stage where a child first develops consciousness and starts understanding morality. During this stage, children learn don't hurt people, tell the truth, and don't betray trust. These norms come from family values and very often religion. In many theistic traditions, guilt signals separation from God. It guides moral connection and maintains community morality. But philosophers disagree on whether guilt requires religion. So, can it? According to contemporary moral psychology, guilt doesn't require religion. It arises from empathy, social cooperation, and internalized norms, which are things humans naturally develop regardless of beliefs. But wait, if morality has no divine foundation, then guilt is nothing more than just human biology, meaning that nothing is truly moral guilt and therefore it's meaningless. Now, that argument isn't entirely wrong, but it's incomplete. Even without God, guilt isn't meaningless. It becomes a reflection of your freedom. You feel guilty because you recognize that you choose your own actions, and you must take responsibility for them. Without a God to blame, guilt becomes heavier because you're on your own now. You don't avoid hurting someone because God might punish you. You avoid it because you would feel responsible for causing harm. But the truth is that guilt didn't actually start with God. Instead, it started with the consequences that your family used to shape you. Before you even ever heard of God, your parents decided what was right or wrong for you. They rewarded you or punished you. They defined morality and enforced consequences. As a child, you see your parents as all-knowing and all-powerful. And later, the same role is projected onto God. Psychologists call this authority transference. Your first guilt comes from human consequences. If you do this, you'll get punished, don't lie, and don't talk back. When you first break these rules, you feel guilt because you disappointed a parent, broke a rule, feared punishment, and most importantly, risked losing approval. This forms your moral blueprint. Religion later maps perfectly into this structure. Sins equal broken rules, God equals ultimate parent, punishment equals divine consequences, forgiveness equals parental reconciliation. So guilt feels religious, but it's actually childhood conditioning wearing a religious mask. Once consequences repeat enough, your parents' voice become your inner voice. Their rules become your conscience. Their punishments become guilt sensations. This is called introjection. Religion now blends into that same internal voice. It amplifies the dynamic that your family already created. So the guilt you feel doesn't come from God, but it comes from the emotional architecture that your family originally built. When you now remove the religious mask, you uncover a painful truth. You don't actually fear God, but you fear feeling abandoned, rejected, or unprotected. When you stop believing in a God, you're not losing a deity, you're losing the emotional structure that kept your identity together. For many people, God was their guaranteed protector, their guaranteed source of acceptance, and the judge who kept things in order. Losing that belief feels like losing a parent, losing a protector, a source of meaning, and a source of identity. The fear isn't God is gone, the fear is who accepts me now, who defines my right or wrong, who decides my destiny. It's a symbolic attachment loss. Your parents once told you God watches over you, God punishes evil, God protects you, and it's all in God's plan. Those beliefs were wired into the same system that children use for caregivers. When belief collapses, the emotional system doesn't process it immediately. Instead, it panics. You learn that protection was external, acceptance was external, meaning was external. Without God, the brain screams that I'm unprotected, I'm alone, and that no one is watching over me now. This is not a theological crisis. Instead, this is an attachment crisis. In religious families, losing belief also means risking disappointment, judgment, and emotional disconnections. The fear becomes, if I don't believe, will my family still love me? Will I still belong? Will they see me as broken? Humans evolved to dread rejection because isolation was once fatal. Without God, the universe becomes neutral and unprotected. Life feels more random and you feel alone. This creates existential vulnerability. If there is no cosmic parent, then no one is responsible for you. What meaning do you have to live for now? And that's when identity begins to collapse. You've now entered what psychologists call identity death. Religion didn't just teach you beliefs, it gave you purpose, morality, meaning, destiny, narrative, belonging, protection, and identity. When that all collapses, it feels like death because, well, psychologically it is. You're not losing reality, but you're losing the story you were once in. Your mind now panics because it was never taught how to build its own story. To rebuild, you must first understand that meaning is not found, instead, it's created. When the inherited cosmic identity dies, then the authentic identity can finally begin. You weren't born with meaning, you were born with the will to create it. This isn't emptiness, this is freedom. Identity death clears the ground for identity creation. Most people raised in religious homes were never taught who they really are outside rules or expectations. This is the first moment meeting your own mind, your own morality, your own desires, and your own purpose. This is the birth of an independent identity. You must now ask yourself, what values matter to me? What kind of person do I want to be? What brings me fulfillment? And what kind of life do I want to create? Meaning becomes much stronger when you write it yourself. So, who becomes your cosmic parent now? Not another God, not another ideology, not another authority. Instead, it's you. But not the inherited version of you, the conscious one. The one who understands why you act. The one who chooses your own values instead of repeating your family's. The one who knows what you fear, what you desire, and what you want to create. This is the version of you that finally realizes that you are now responsible for your existence. It sounds scary at first, but it's not punishment, it's freedom. So why does turning away from God feel so guilty? Well, because you inherited a version of yourself built upon obedience, protection, and cosmic purpose. When that structure collapses, it feels like abandonment, but it's actually the beginning of you. You feel guilty not because God is watching, but because you're finally watching your own self.